They said the house would finally start paying for itself, that a signature and a stamp would carry our family across a quiet bridge. But on the morning we were meant to cross, the bridge tilted. My mother, the legal owner and final word, asked a question I hadn't prepared for. Who are they really? Behind her calm voice, the agent's smile thinned, and the prospective tenants clutched their folders like passports in a storm. I had chased this deal, negotiated terms, promised certainty. Now the room smelled of fresh paint and panic. In that breathless pause, I felt something slide: authority, trust, reputation, like tiles loosening from a roof, one by one, under an approaching rain. The morning light slid through the half-drawn curtains, stretching across the living room floor, where dust motes floated like tiny secrets. Outside, the alley still carried the faint aroma of grilled bread and coffee. The hum of mopeds breaking into the quiet, like impatient punctuation marks. The house, 3 decades old yet stubbornly upright, stood in a narrow row of neighbors that seemed to lean in as if eavesdropping. Its cream-colored walls held years of handprints and repairs, each patch a silent chapter of our family's history. I was the middle child, the one who never waited for instructions when a solution seemed obvious. To me, action was the purest form of loyalty. 2 weeks ago, I had found a tenant, a young couple with polite voices, steady jobs, and the kind of warm smiles that make you want to believe in them. Through the agent, I handled every detail: the deposit, the clauses, even a concession on the move-in date to sweeten the deal. The only thing I didn't handle was the one thing that would later matter most: my mother's sense of certainty. My mother, Leanne, carried authority not by volume, but by gravity. A widow for over 10 years, she knew the weight of choices. She inspected people the way she once inspected produce at the market. A slow turn, a press for firmness, a silent calculation of worth. She wasn't unkind, just deliberate. To her, rushing was a cousin of regret. The agent, Hui, was all efficiency and cologne. He liked numbers, not narratives, and found my mother's hesitations quaint at best, obstructive at worst. The prospective tenants, Min and Anne, stood like students awaiting an exam, holding neatly prepared folders that rustled when they shifted their feet. In that room, under the yellow hum of the ceiling fan, all the elements seemed ready for an ending. The deal done, the papers signed, the keys exchanged. But somewhere beneath the surface, a tension coiled, a thin, invisible thread connecting us all, waiting for the slightest tug to unravel. The pen lay between us on the table, its silver clip catching the light. One stroke, and weeks of work would be sealed. I could already see the numbers in my head: rent flowing in, bills eased, the quiet relief of a task completed. My mother reached for the papers but didn't open them. Instead, she looked at Min and Anne, her gaze steady, her lips pressed thin. "Tell me," she said softly, "where do you work, and why here?" The couple exchanged a glance, surprised, but polite. Min began to answer, but my mother's hand rose slightly as if holding the air in place. "No, I mean, why this house? Why now?" Her tone wasn't hostile, but it cut through the easy rhythm of the meeting. Hui's foot tapped under the table, an impatient drumbeat. "Madame Lienne?" he said with a practiced smile. "We've gone over the details already. Their credentials are solid. We shouldn't lose time." "That's not the point," my mother interrupted, her eyes still on the couple. I felt heat rise in my chest. We had agreed on the rent. We had discussed the contract. I had told her they were trustworthy. And now, here we were, unraveling it all in front of them. The young woman, Anne, tightened her grip on the folder. Min's smile faltered, unsure whether to charm or retreat. The silence stretched, heavy with unspoken challenges. My mind screamed to smooth it over, to rescue my credibility before it slipped. But every attempt to interject felt like stepping into quicksand. Each word risked pulling me deeper into the impression that I was scrambling, unprepared. Somewhere outside, a motorbike backfired, the sound like a gavel striking. The moment had tipped. This wasn't just about a rental anymore. It was about control, about who held it, and who was willing to concede. The room seemed smaller now, the air denser. The smell of varnish from the freshly polished table mixed with the faint tang of dust from the ceiling fan, each rotation scattering tiny motes into the stale tension. My mother leaned back in her chair, folding her arms, not in defiance, but in quiet declaration. Hay tried to reclaim the rhythm, tapping the edge of the contract with his pen. We should finalize this before the lunch break. The market moves fast. Another client could take the property by this evening. Min cleared his throat. We're both engineers at a manufacturing firm, he said, his voice careful. We've been looking for a place near the metro line. This house, he glanced at Anne, felt right. It should have been enough. On paper, their credentials were impeccable, but my mother's gaze didn't soften. Felt right, she repeated, as if turning the phrase over in her mind, testing its edges. And shifted slightly, her chair creaking. We value a stable home, she said. We take care of the places we live in. If there's anything you'd like to know, I'd like to know what's not written here. My mother cut in, tapping the folder in Anne's lap. The agent sighed audibly, and I felt the slow boil of frustration rise again. We were drifting into a territory no contract could navigate, a place of instincts, of private litmus tests only my mother understood. And with each question, the clock ticked louder in my mind. The longer this dragged, the more fragile the deal became. Then came the first ripple, subtle but telling. Min hesitated before answering a question about their previous landlord. It was barely a pause, but my mother caught it like a fisherman sensing the slightest tug on the line. She asked more, her voice calm, but I could see the small flicker in Min's eyes, a calculation of what to reveal and what to leave unsaid. The conversation looped in circles. Hay's tone sharpened, mine frayed at the edges, the couple's patience thinned. Yet amid the push and pull, I noticed something unsettling. My mother wasn't simply being cautious. She was probing, steering us towards something none of us had acknowledged yet. And then, as if the room needed more strain, my phone buzzed, an unfamiliar number. I ignored it, but it rang again, insistent. When I finally answered, a voice I didn't recognize spoke a single sentence that would shift the ground beneath us. You should know, they've been evicted before. The voice on the phone was low, urgent, and unfamiliar. You should know, they were evicted from their last place. Before I could respond, the line went dead. I stood there for a heartbeat, phone still pressed to my ear, as if keeping it there could rewind the moment. The steady whir of the ceiling fan sounded suddenly oppressive, pushing warm air around a room that had gone cold. When I turned back, my mother's eyes were on me, not questioning, but expectant. She had sensed it. the invisible crack in the facade, long before the words reached my ear. Her hand rested on the contract, not gripping it, not pushing it away, just waiting. I sat down slowly. "I think we need to discuss something before we sign." My voice was even, but the edge was there. The couple exchanged a glance, too quick for most to notice, but my mother did. Min's shoulders stiffened. Annan's smile held, but her eyes flickered, just for a second. Hui leaned in, impatience sharpening his tone. "We've gone through all their papers. Everything checks out." "On paper," my mother said softly, "is not the same as in life." Silence, the kind that stretches, tightens, dares someone to break it. And tried first, her voice warm but slightly too rehearsed. "People can say anything. It doesn't make it true." "True things," my mother replied, "have a way of not needing much defending." The shift was subtle but irreversible. The easy charm the couple had worn like armor now felt heavier on them. Ill-fitting. I realized, with a slow, unsettling clarity, that the balance in the room had tilted, not toward me, but toward her. She had taken the reins without raising her voice, simply by letting the silence do the work. The contract still lay untouched, its crisp white pages between us like a frozen river. And now, everyone in the room was wondering, would it hold our weight or crack wide open? The afternoon light had shifted, turning the living room into a stage of long shadows. The contract lay between us like a dual pistol, untouched. Min broke first. "We've been more than transparent," he said, his voice tightening around each syllable. "If this is about some misunderstanding, we should clear it up now." My mother didn't flinch. "Then tell me," she said evenly, "why your previous landlord won't provide a reference." It was Hui who reacted, eyes narrowing, posture stiff. "Where is this coming from? We don't base decisions on hearsay." "I don't," my mother said, turning to him. "But I do base them on patterns." Her gaze returned to the couple. "And yours is not one I want in my home." The air crackled. Min's jaw worked, searching for a rebuttal, and reached into her folder, pulled out a letter, and slid it across the table. It was short, typed, unsigned. My mother didn't touch it. "This is not a reference?" she said. "It's a piece of paper anyone could type." And then, the twist I hadn't seen coming. From the doorway, a voice rang out. A neighbor, Mrs. Hoa, her shopping bag still hooked on her arm. "I know them," she said. "They rented my cousin's place last year, left without paying the last 2 months. Took the furniture, too." It was as if a curtain had been torn away. The couple's faces froze, the thin veneer of politeness gone. Min pushed back his chair, the scrape loud in the stillness. "We don't have to sit here for this," he said, his tone no longer cautious but sharp. "No," my mother replied, her voice steady as a locked door. "You don't." They left without the contract. Hui muttered something about wasted time, but his voice was small now. I sat there, the adrenaline still rushing, realizing what had just happened. My mother hadn't stumbled into this confrontation. She had guided it, step by step, until the truth was forced into the open. And in the quiet that followed, I understood that she hadn't just protected the house. She had protected me from my own haste, from my blind trust, from the cost of a mistake I hadn't yet recognized. The front gate clanged shut, their footsteps fading into the narrow alley. The living room exhaled, releasing the tension that had coiled in every corner. Sunlight spilled across the table, pooling on the unsigned contract, a silent victory. My mother gathered the papers, not with triumph, but with the calm finality of someone who had simply done what needed to be done. "We'll find someone else," she said, her voice measured, almost gentle now. I muttered an apology for pushing too hard earlier, his polished certainty dulled. He left quickly, phone already in hand, searching for new prospects. In the quiet that followed, I stayed seated, my pulse finally slowing. The frustration I'd carried for days began to unravel, replaced by something more complicated: respect, tinged with humility. She hadn't just stopped a bad deal. She'd turned what could have been a silent financial wound into a lesson I couldn't ignore. Later that week, word spread in the neighborhood. The couple's history was confirmed through stories passed over fences and shared on doorsteps. Rent unpaid, promises broken, polite smiles masking practiced deceit. In the small ecosystem of our street, reputation travels faster than paper contracts. 2 weeks later, a new tenant moved in. A young teacher and her sister, quiet and diligent. My mother approved them after a thorough meeting, one I attended from start to finish. Questions ready, patience in place. For the couple who left, there was no dramatic reckoning, no public shaming, just the slow tightening of a net they'd woven themselves as fewer and fewer doors opened to them. For me, the reward wasn't in the rent that came each month, but in the look my mother gave me the day we handed over the keys, an unspoken acknowledgement that I had earned a place, not just in the transaction, but in her trust. Some lessons arrive quietly, like water seeping into dry soil. Others break through in a single moment, sharp and irreversible. That afternoon taught me both. It's tempting to believe that speed is always strength, that securing the deal first means winning. But in matters that touch the heart and the home, patience is not hesitation. It is protection. My mother had seen what I didn't, that trust is not built on numbers and signatures alone, but on the quiet diligence of knowing who you let across your threshold. The greatest power in that room was not the contract or the authority of ownership. It was the clarity to walk away when something felt wrong. And that clarity, I learned, often belongs to those who have weathered more storms than you've yet seen. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever stood at the edge of a decision and felt the tension between moving fast and looking deeper, take a breath. Ask the extra question. Wait for the silence to reveal what words won't. Because sometimes the deal you don't make is the one that saves you. And sometimes the hardest lesson to learn is that walking away is not losing. It's choosing the kind of future you can live in. If this story touched you, stay with us. Because every week, we uncover new tales of choices, turning points, and the hidden truths that shape our lives. Subscribe, share this video, and let's keep exploring these lessons together.